If I can ask everybody to take a seat, we'll get started in just a minute. All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this year's Identity, Authentication, and the Road Ahead Policy Forum. I'm Jeremy Grant. I'm a managing director here at Venable in the Technology and Innovation Group. I also serve as the coordinator of the Better Identity Coalition and an advisor to FIDO Alliance, and I'll be your MC today or something like that. I'm thrilled that the coalition and FIDO and the Identity Theft Resource Center have once again partnered on bringing you this event today. Before we start, just a few items to flag. Bathrooms are out here and to the left. The ladies' room is before the elevator. The men's room, you got to kind of wind your way around a little bit. It's a bit more of an adventure to get there, but you will find it, and they're lovely. Lunch will be served buffet style right around 12:30, just outside here where the breakfast is right now. I want to note, in addition to a full room here, we have, I think, a couple hundred people attending virtually. While we're not going to be set up to take questions from the online crowd, I do want to ask anyone who asks questions in the room to please use a microphone, in that'll let our friends who are online actually hear the question that's being asked. Also note we have a lot of reporters in the room today. It's nice to see them, but don't say anything you might not want printed. Finally, I just wanted to highlight SOX. We're pleased in the Better Identity Coalition to not only be the leading advocates in Washington, D.C. for better digital identity solutions, but also to be the trade organization that has the best SOX. In previous years, we've handed out SOX at this event. One year they were green. Last year, I think we had orange. I'm excited to announce we've augmented our previous SOC designs with the new electric blue SOC with a very zazzy orange accent that we're handing out this year. They're very comfy socks, I'll say. They're very comfy to the point that my wife and my daughter steal them a lot, which leads to some household drama. So I recommend you grab a pair. We've got bags and giveaway bags just on the other side of this wall that also have some Venable swag, like a notebook or something. And I think there's also a basket of socks by the front. So we're proud of our socks. You should get a pair or two. So on to the policy forum. So we get feedback every year that this is a really unique event in that it presents a lot of different perspectives on challenges in identity and authentication, one that's a little more diverse than most industry conferences. I think part of this is due to the different perspectives of the three sponsors. So ID Theft Resource Center is focused on helping victims of identity theft. They're uniquely positioned to highlight that beyond all the stats and numbers we see here on this topic, there's also, every one of these crimes impacts an individual, generally in an absolutely awful way. And so we think it's really important to tell their stories. FIDO Alliance is focused on creating new standards and certification programs that can better protect individuals with an eye towards starting to reverse some of the god-awful trends we've been seeing for years now, where millions of people each year are impacted by compromised credentials. FIDO is one of the places that's actually creating and driving the adoption of technical solutions and standards for these problems. And then in Better Identity Coalition, we're focused on the policy layer, looking at the steps government can take to harden identity infrastructure to prevent identity-related attacks, as well as ensure that new solutions tied to government are not only secure, but also preserve privacy and, importantly, work for everybody. Together, these three groups work together each year to try and tell a comprehensive story, both of how challenging our problems are because of ID theft and identity-related cybercrime, as well as how we can start to solve those problems. So it's been a wonderful partnership. I was thinking about how to sort of frame things this year, and my mind went back to something a great man named Homer Simpson once said about drinking. He said, "To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems." And I was thinking about that as I started to put notes together for this event, because it applies not only to alcohol, but I think also to identity. So with regard to identity being the cause of all of life's problems, I think for those of us who are security professionals, there's a lot of truth to this, and we're going to hear a lot about why that is today. ITRC will be releasing their annual data breach report, which I'm told will reveal that 2023 was the worst year ever for breaches, and not even close. And in breach after breach, it's generally some sort of compromised identity. That's the attack vector our adversaries are exploiting. This afternoon, we're going to hear from the Director of Treasury, the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, discussing new research they recently published that details that more than $200 billion worth of transactions that were flagged by banks as being suspicious activity in 2021 were tied to some sort of a breakdown in the identity or authentication process. It's over $200 billion in just 1 year in one sector. If we shift to public benefits, the GAO estimated that during the pandemic, north of $100 billion was stolen in terms of pandemic unemployment benefits, mostly by fraudsters who were spoofing the ideas of real people and used it to essentially knowing 5 things about somebody allowed them to steal thousands or millions of dollars that cumulatively comes to hundreds of over 100 billion. So, by the way, if you're doing the math here as I speak, that's over 300 billion lost to identity-related cybercrime in just 2 sectors, financial services and government, not even beginning to look at what's happening in other sectors. So the numbers are pretty staggering, and when you consider that a sizable portion of the proceeds of this theft is being used by hostile nation states to fuel their activities against us or our allies. There was a Bloomberg story this morning talking about how the North Koreans stole another $1 billion in crypto last year, in many cases through things like compromised credentials to fuel their nuclear program. So that's comforting. The security implications are pretty staggering. But in terms of identity not being just the cause of, but also the solution to life's problems, there is a lot to talk about here. And that if we can make our identity systems better, we not only improve security, but do it in a way that enhances privacy, makes transactions online more convenient, and does so in a way that is inclusive and works well for everybody. We know how to do this. In fact, the Better Identity Coalition is this morning releasing an updated policy blueprint that lays out 21 steps for the government to take to get there. But the government has to decide first if this is an issue that is important enough to be acting on. We haven't gotten there quite yet. Also, in terms of solutions, we're going to hear a lot today from CISA, from the White House, from FIDO Alliance about the ways phishing-resistant authentication is able to block a lot of the most commonly exploited attacks by our adversaries and deliver more secure login experiences that are also easier to use because they don't use a password at all. We'll also have a couple panels focusing on solutions. We've got one looking at the way biometrics can help reduce the value of stolen data by shifting defenses away from something you know and focusing instead on something you are. We also have a great panel this afternoon that my colleague Heather West will moderate, looking at the impact of generative AI and identity and how amidst it creating new cybersecurity threats with attacks on identity systems with things like deepfakes, there's also ways it could defend against threats. So whether you're feeling upset or celebratory at the end of the day, or you're just not sure, we'll hope you'll join us for a drink at our reception outside that'll start around 4:45 or 5 after the conference ends. So with that, I'm thrilled to welcome to the stage our first speaker, Caitlin Clark from the White House National Security Council. Caitlin serves as Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Cyber and Emerging Technology on the National Security Council. In that role, she leads the development of defensive-related cyber policy. She's had a great career before her time in the NSC. She did a stint as the Assistant National Cyber Director for Planning and Operations within the Office of the National Cyber Director, ONCD, in the White House. Had a couple of very big leading roles on the cybersecurity front at American Express, and before that, another stint in government service at FEMA. So, Caitlin, really glad you could join us today. Thank you. And I'll leave a pair of socks up here for you.